Over the past couple years, Travis Scott has been teasing the idea of Utopia, his next and current album at this moment. And we've been waiting for 5 years since Astroworld, and now that it's finally here and we've given it a couple listens, I have some thoughts. First of all, this project is long. Comes in at 19 tracks at an hour and 13 minutes. Now, I've been on record saying that long albums are not necessarily a bad thing, and if a album is going to be long, it better have a purpose. This album, I don't know that it necessarily has a purpose of being that long, but that's something that I'll figure out as I listen to it some more. But upon these first couple listens, I do have some thoughts and comparisons to other projects that I've listened to. The first thing that came to mind as I was listening to it for the first time was, this project sounds a little familiar. It almost is reminiscent of something. It's reminiscent of a project that came out just about 10 years ago. It sounds like Yeezus, which does kind of check out because Travis Scott does have a lot of production credits on Yeezus, and Travis and Kanye are buddies. I mean, Travis is his protege, and then obviously some familial relations through the Kardashians, but it kind of checks out that it sounds like Yeezus. But the issue here is when Yeezus came out, the sound was new. It was groundbreaking. It wasn't something that anything that anyone had really heard up till that point, unless you listen to Death Grips, when that kind of makes some sense then. Like, you're, all right, cool. Nothing new to them. But for the general listener, people who are fans of Kanye and more commercial rap, this was brand new to you. And the issue I have is it's very hard for me to not compare it to Yeezus. And because I'm comparing it to Yeezus in my head at least, I would expect that this project would also have some new sounds to it, which it doesn't really. Throughout the project, I feel like Travis Scott leans very heavily on his Kanye influence in terms of rapping, and then, like I mentioned, the Yeezus sounds. You get a lot of more aggressive drums, just some random noises here and there, and then his rapping style really just sounds a lot like what Kanye has been doing. It almost sounds like this project could have been entirely written by Kanye and would have had the same effect. The only difference is that it's actually finished and a little more polished than anything Kanye has put out in the last 5 years. Now, going into the project, I had no expectations, especially because the first single was K-pop, and for some reason, half of y'all think that song is good, and then the other half thinks is absolute dog water, which I lean more towards the latter. But my expectations were set very low with that single, especially because, this is the lead single for your project. My guy, what the hell are you doing? But anyways, going into this project, I expected literally nothing, and I think that was for the best. I listened to a couple songs on stream the other day and wasn't necessarily blown away, but I was like, okay, well, let me listen to the project in its entirety, not some random songs in between. And yeah, that feeling kind of carried over still. That's not to say, though, that there are no good songs on this project. There are some songs that I enjoyed. Can't really name them off the top of my head because the album's been out for 26 hours at this point, so there's not a whole lot of longevity that nothing really stuck in my head. There are some songs that I will bring up because they had interesting moments to them, but again, this is not to say that this album is just full of misses. This does mean that this album is a little bit long, in my opinion, and probably would have done better if someone had properly A&R'd it to, maybe cut it down to a solid 35 minutes. But again, Travis Scott fans don't really care. They're going to listen to whatever the hell he puts out, and they're going to rage. I mean, it is what it is. And again, this is not necessarily a dig at y'all. Like I just understand that this music is no longer for me because I am old and raggedy, and I don't like going outside. If you are anywhere in your, well, between let's say 16 and 22, this is probably the best album in the world to you. Anyways, moving on. There are some songs that I do have thoughts on. The ones that I mentioned, like that have that Yeezus sound to it, are gonna be like Modern Jam and Circus Maximus, Parasail, a little bit of Schizo. I'm sure there's a couple more in there, but those are songs that just straight up sound like they've been yanked from Yeezus and put into this project. I will say, I have seen a lot of people mentioning that there are a few songs on here that were leaked Kanye songs, and you know, that's totally possible. I mean, Travis Scott and them and Kanye are still close, I presume, because he also mentioned how if Kanye is running for president again, he's going to vote for him over anyone else. So, there's that. While I'm still on this Kanye kind of tangent, I would not have been surprised if this project was done by Kanye. Yeah, I think I already mentioned it, but if this project was done by Kanye, it might sound a little bit better. It may have a little bit more creative freedom, but mixing and mastering would not be as good, and we probably would never actually get the full project. Anyways, the tracks that I wanted to bring up, really just a couple of them. First one being Meltdown, and the reason for me bringing up Meltdown is because that is the track with a Drake feature, and Drake's feature is entirely focused at him throwing more shots at Pusha T. It was actually a really good verse, and I was not expecting it. I feel like that Pusha T and Drake beef has kind of ended, but he's just there to say, hey, man, I could have come after you, but I had that lawsuit with Vogue. I took Pharrell's chains, or I bought Pharrell's chains and then melted them down. No one wants to be a Louis no one wears Louis because Virgil passed and now Pharrell's there. He's kind of throwing shots at Pharrell too, which is kind of fucked up because, Pharrell is such a big figure, and I don't think that Drake would have any reason to throw shots at Pharrell, but that's a whole nother thing. It also sounded like he alluded to something about Jim Jones in it, but him and Jim Jones are besties, apparently. The other song that I wanted to bring up was Del Resto Echoes, which is the track with Beyonce. I felt like that track didn't really do much for me. Beyonce was on there, but it was more of like just her doing backing vocals almost. So, yes, it was a Beyonce feature, but I don't think it was really anything to write home about. I know a lot of people are hyping the shit out of it, but I thought it was pretty whatever. And that kind of whatever feeling carries on through a lot of the project. At times, I feel like I want to really like it. Like, for example, I listened to it 2 full times today. First time was in the morning when I was getting ready and then doing some editing. And it was, daytime, bright. I had a little bit of energy, had my coffee in me. And then the second time was on my way home from work where I was tired. It was getting dark and I just wanted to be home. And this music is definitely not for that sort of vibe. So I will say this project has its time and place, but that time and place for me is very minimal. It is something I'm going to listen to a few more times to really get a full opinion on and get proper thoughts, and maybe actual insight to what he's trying to do on this project. But as of right now, I'm feeling kind of mid on it. It's been a long wait. It's been just under 5 years, and I don't know. I feel like I expected more. I know in the K-pop video, I did a whole rant on how I was disappointed and wanted more from him. And while that feeling still exists, I don't necessarily feel as bad. Like, it served its purpose. This project has, like I said, its time and place. There is an audience for it. That audience just might not be me anymore, and that's okay. With all that said, though, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this project upon your first few listens. And while you're down there, like and subscribe to see more ramblings and content like this. Whenever Circus Maximus comes on to streaming or whatever, hopefully it provides further insight to the project. But until then, all we have is the album, because I know I'm not taking my ass to AMC because a bunch of y'all are going to be out there yelling the entire time. Anyways, while you're down there commenting on the album, why don't you subscribe to see more ramblings and content like this? Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.